Welcome. All right, so we are here with I'm about to say season 2, but it's episode 2 of season 4. I'm gonna get this season down this season for sure. So Corkies, y'all are in for another treat. We have the special guest. Just keep rolling for season 4. And so today we have Lynn. So Lynn, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Lynn Ray. I'm gonna say my age. I'm 61. Um, when I was 30, I was diagnosed with depression and a few years later, bipolar disorder. And I had two psychiatrists tell me I'd never work full time again, and I've proven them wrong over and over. It took some work, and I guess that's what we're going to talk about today, how I was able to achieve the good mental health that I have now.
Awesome. So, Len, can you share with us what does it mean to be in recovery from bipolar disorder?
Well, for me, one of the biggest things was getting back to work full time. I'm a very proud person. I want to be able to support myself. And when I was first diagnosed, I was married, I was home with my kids, I wasn't working. But later on, I was separated, I was working full time. And that's when I had this big manic episode. They told me I'd never work full time again. And in my head, I said, screw you guys. Well, I said worse, but and I worked very hard to get to where I could work again. So what it means for me to be in recovery is, number one, to be able to work and support myself. Number two, blend into society so nobody would know I ever had the illness. I've been managing it so long, it's far in the past, and I don't even think about it on a daily basis. But those are the two big things for me, and to be there for my kids. I had to recover for them. That was my motivating factor all along, too.
Wow, that's awesome. Awesome. Is there someone that helped you to motivate, I guess, outside of your kids, or was it just your kids after your diagnosis?
Um, in terms of family or friends, I felt like I was kind of on my own. My family, my mother and mother-in-law were great at taking care of my children. When I was sick and couldn't do it myself, they were right there for me. In terms of emotional support, I felt like I needed to look to other people to get it. Like Patty Duke is a famous actress. She's deceased now, but she was the first person to speak out about this in the 90s, that she had it. And I looked to a lot of famous people. And then one day, just by chance, I started emailing this man. I'd seen some little kind of editorials he'd written, and I started emailing him. And this was around the year, let's say 2000. And he would give me some really good advice with a bit of religion thrown in. And one day I sent him an email, and he got back to me right away. Like my doctor psychiatrist wanted me to take a pill for anxiety. And I thought, no, that's a quick fix. I'm looking for a long-term solution. So I sent an email to this man who'd become my mentor. We've never spoken to on the phone or met in person. We just email. And he gave me kind of a kick in the pants that day. He said, Lynn, you've got to stop feeling sorry for yourself. Look at all the positives instead of negatives. Get out and talk to people. And that was the most important thing he said, get out and talk to people. So I went to a mental health drop-in center that day in my community and realized I was further along in my recovery than many people there. So I asked if I could do a talk. And that's when things really started to change for me. That was about 15 years ago. And I started talking about mental health at mental health places, hospitals. I've spoken at a couple universities, Rotary clubs, just saying, you know what, this illness can be managed, and with work, you can find your way out of it and have a happy, productive life.
That's amazing. And now you're an author as well.
I am, yes. I have to, I'm going to go back a bit. We have an hour. So the first book I wrote, the title came to me in a dream. I kept waking up at 4:30 every morning, and I was getting really mad because I wanted to sleep and go to work at that point. And I said, okay, God, I'm getting really sick and tired of waking up at this time. If there's something you want me to do, make it abundantly clear. And when I woke up 3 hours later, the name of this book was going around in my head. It was My Journey Back to Myself. And that's about what this is for me. It was about finding myself again. And that's the name of my website, the name of my business. And then when I started doing these talks a few years later, I realized there were 7 words, all starting with the letter F, that led to my recovery. So I developed a speech based on those words. The words are family, friends, fun, fitness, fulfillment, finances, and faith. And I thought, well, I've made a speech. Now I'm going to write a book about these words. So the first draft of this book was written 10 or 12 years ago. And this spring, I decided over the winter to update it. And I hired a self-publisher because I'm not an artist. I can write, but artist stuff, forget it. So she helped me with getting it edited and making it look really nice. I picked out the cover, but her artist did the words on the cover. So yeah, my book is called The F Book, 7 F's to Creating Your Fantastic Future. And that's what my success coaching program is based on, the book. People, I give them the book and a workbook that goes along with it to work through if they want to improve. I believe anybody can improve their life with these 7 F's. They're things we all need in our lives. So yes, it's called The F Book, and it's for sale on Amazon.
Nice. Is there an F that's most critical, or that you think an F that is most important, or are they all kind of equally important? What would you say?
I would say early on in my recovery, faith. I had to believe there was a reason for my pain. I had to believe I would be better someday. Just my deep faith. Like you can say God, the universe, energy, whatever word you want to use. I just felt something good was going to come out of my pain. And I believe what that is helping other people now. Mm-hmm. And I would say the other biggest thing for me under fitness, I talk about physical and mental fitness. So mental fitness was so important. I had to get right in my head, in my brain, before I could help other people. And I did that in a variety of ways.
Wow.
That's so awesome. I love all the F's. I love them. Earlier you mentioned that you journeyed back to yourself. Do you feel like you went back to who you were before, or did you somehow create a new version of who you once were?
Well, I think I'm a improved version of who I once was, older and wiser. You know, I met my husband when I was 18 and we got married a year or so later. So there wasn't, you know, I got married quite young. So yeah, I'm back. Like when my marriage ended, I went back to doing things I used to do before I met him. I started going dancing again, and I used to live for dances. And I found a way to make new friends through a singles group. And we did all kinds of things together. I think also having fun was so important to me. I had to learn how to have fun again. Find, like I said, going dancing. I used to do it. I started doing it again. I've done all kinds of things just to get out and be with people, playing cards with a card group. I love playing games. Anything that just brings me joy. Right now, what brings me joy is my vegetable garden in the summer. I eat fresh from it every day. I knit when I'm watching TV just for fun. I think having fun and finding joy in your life is key to happiness for anybody. You know, we all have to work and do things every day. Maybe we don't exactly want to do, but you need to find things to do that just bring that spark to you and make you feel alive.
Yeah. So before your diagnosis, what were you doing for work? What did you do for your career?
Well, for a few years, I was in banking. And then after my son was about 3, I stopped work, had another child, and I was a stay-at-home mom for, about 8 years. Oh, 10 years, I guess. Yeah, 10 years. And I think that's when the depression really started. I was home alone. I felt isolated. I didn't have a lot of close friends. And then you start thinking about your life. Is this the life I want for myself? And at some point, I knew that it wasn't, but it was very hard to make those changes because I didn't want to admit our marriage was a big part of my problem.
Mhm.
So for 4 years, I just took antidepressants. I felt great. So I never did anything to change my situation. And then when I had a manic episode, that's when I really had to say, okay, there's a problem here. I have to figure out what it is now. And it took a lot of work and soul searching to, like I said, have the courage to say this marriage isn't working. I didn't want our kids to be from a broken home. And I believe I had to leave my marriage before I could start on the road to recovering from bipolar disorder. And it's not that there's anything wrong with my husband. I say, we were like oil and water. We just didn't mix,
Mhm.
We're just two different people.
Um, and one of the things that you just said, I think that was powerful, is you spoke a little bit about what it looked like for you. And so you talked about being sad and depressed, and having the flip side of the manic. What did that side look like for you, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh, when you're manic, well, okay, there's hypomania and mania, okay? Hypomania is a great place to be. You feel wonderful. It just seems like life is easy when you're in that frame of mind. But then when you hit mania, that's when the psychosis, suspicions start. You're paranoid of everybody around you. It's not a fun place to be at all.
Mm.
Not at all. And that's what lands people in the hospital usually. And I have to take mega doses of antipsychotics to get me down again. Okay.
Mhm.
So, in whatever your normal frame of mind is. But
Thank
no,
you.
mania is absolutely not a fun place to be. Hypomanic, you obsess and it feels great. You go on wild spending sprees, spending all kinds of money because you think just life is wonderful and you have no fear or no worries or inhibitions. You just, like I said, I don't understand what happens in the brain at that particular time, but then, like I said, you get suspicious and paranoid and psychotic. I've hallucinated. I've had a lot of really strange things happen.
Thank you for sharing that, because that's a lot, and it's very real, right? And a lot of people don't understand the different phases of it and the differences. And they throw around the title, the name so freely of, oh, that person's just bipolar, they're acting bipolar, when it's something real and there's different, like you just so greatly just displayed as like the phases of it. So thank you for that.
It's
And
very scary when you're in that frame of mind. It really
I
is.
can only imagine, because we all so desperately as humans, right, want to have control. And so it would seem like you don't have much control during that time.
That's right. I have to mention the movie A Beautiful Mind is on my TV today. And about a year ago, I got hypomanic for a short period of time. And when I thought I hallucinated something, I just remembered a scene from the movie in which he learned to ignore his hallucinations. And I thought, that's what I have to do if it ever happens again, just ignore it.
Can you share how long each period, lasts for you, the hypomania, the mania, the depressive episodes?
Okay, hypomania can last for a few weeks, but then for me, it almost always escalates to mania. So let's say it lasts 4 weeks, and then I'm manic for another week or two until I get help. For every week of mania, I used to be depressed for a month afterwards. So let's say this was going on for 4 to 6 weeks, I would be clinically depressed for 4 to 6 months, where I didn't want to get off the couch. I would just lay there. Like, I would still try to keep a routine. I'd get up in the morning and shower and dress for the day. And then I'd be just drained of energy, so exhausted. I would just lay on the couch. I just didn't have a lot of energy after this. It depletes you of your energy is what it does, because you just seem to go, go, go. You can't stop. Your mind is going, your body is going so fast. And then you're drained of energy afterwards and depressed. Now, I have not been clinically depressed in 15, 16 years, because even when I do have a little bit of hypomania, I think because I'm living my life the way I want to, I don't get depressed. There was a time it was life circumstances causing depression for me, and I worked through them. The man I'd been dating moved in with me. That was a disaster. My mother died, and my daughter was acting out. So those 3 things was really causing my mood to go down. So I thought, okay, I'm going to deal with these without medication. Like, I still take medication for bipolar. I mean, without an antidepressant or something like that. So I asked the man that was living with me to leave. I went to a bereavement group to talk about my mother's death. And I had a girlfriend to talk to about my daughter. And I believe talking about your problems is what got me to the good place I'm at today. Talking to my psychiatrist, I've had a social worker in the past, having friends to talk to. Now my children are adults. I can talk to them about things, not everything, but, lots of things. And I believe the cure for depression is cognitive behavioral therapy. It's called CBT, where you change your thoughts, negative thoughts, to a positive one. So if you're saying, oh, I can't make any friends, well, you need to ask yourself, what have I done to make new friends? Maybe I talk to people at church or at the park, and they might become my friend. Instead of just saying, I can't do this, I can't do that, think, how can I change it? You know, we're in charge of our lives, and we have to make small changes if we're going to have a different life than what we're living right now.
Yes.
Love it, love it. Good stuff, good stuff. What type of books would you recommend to our listeners, maybe people that would come in for coaching from you, to be of inspiration or helpful, maybe things that you've used on your journey? Do you have any recommendations?
Well, one of the first books I read that made a really big impact on me was When I Say No, I Feel Guilty. I can't think of the author's name offhand, but it's been around for 20 or 30 years, this book. And when I read it, it's like, oh my goodness, I've been a people pleaser my entire life. I just do what other people want me to do and don't think twice about it. And is this, like I said, is this the life I want? I started asking myself. So I had to stop being a people pleaser and learn to please myself first. And another book that was real eye-opener for me, it's called Boundaries. The authors are Cloud and Townsend. I forget their first names, but it's about how to
Favorite.
put up boundaries so we only let positive, affirming people into our lives. And I had to learn how to take a step back and stop being a victim and say, this relationship isn't working for me, in a nice way, so I don't hurt people's feelings. But if somebody wants me to do something with them and I'm feeling resentful, I've learned to say, you know, that's just not where I'm at right now. You know, if they want me to go for a walk every Friday or something, I had to say to somebody, I'm sorry, but that's just not where I'm at right now. You know? So boundaries, it's so important. We all have to put up boundaries. No, not to keep people out, but to let in people that are positive and affirming in our lives.
Yeah, that's so true. So, what does success mean to you, and how do you measure success?
Success for me is being able to support myself. And once my bills are paid, any money that's left over is to do the things I enjoy. I'm not a complicated person. I don't have a lot of expensive hobbies. My life is my kids, my grandson, two or three close friends, my church family. Success for me is just being able to do what I want to do. And this is a year of transition for me. I've been working as a virtual assistant for 6 years. That came out of necessity. I got downsized 6 years ago. And then I thought, no, I want to get back into inspirational talks and do this book again and be a success coach. And I'm taking the opportunity to do that now because it's what's in my heart. It's been in my heart for over 20 years. The very first hospitalization I had, I told myself, when I get healthy, I'm helping other people. But you see, what I had to do is prove that I could work full time as well, because I really try to walk my talk. And, you know, I went back, I've been working full time really for about 12 years now. And it's really important to me to be authentic and, like I said, to walk my talk and try to live the life that I ask other people to live.
For sure. Thank you.
Specific things that you did to recover?
There were a lot of things I had to do to get well. I think one of the big things was becoming medication compliant. There are newer and better antipsychotics on the market. And 20 years ago, some of them, I didn't like the side effects. They would make you anxious. You couldn't sleep or all different kinds of things. Okay. But then I found one about 15 years ago that really agrees with me. So that was number one. Number two, as I already talked about, was cognitive behavioral therapy. Whenever you have a negative thought, change it to a positive one.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I did was read a lot of books. I probably read 200 nonfiction, self-help, motivational type books. At first, I was reading a lot of books about mental illness, but I've read books about relationships, religion, autobiographies about people who have had major struggles in their life and overcome them. Reading really, really helped me. And I have to say, people laugh when I say this, but I watched a lot of Oprah back then. And now I watch Dr. Phil because they speak about mental health and issues that are important to me. And lots of guests that would be on their shows, I would think, oh, I want to read their book. That sounds really good. Yes, so reading. I used to put up Post-it notes around my apartment with a motivational saying on them. The motivational saying that kept me going in my darkest hours is by Deepak Chopra. You can believe the diagnosis, not the prognosis. And I'll say it again. You can believe the diagnosis, not the prognosis. So at some point, I finally accepted the fact that I had bipolar disorder, but I would never believe I couldn't work full time again.
Wow.
And another one I really liked is I don't give up. I don't give in. I don't take no for an answer.
I love that.
I heard that on a TV show one day and I wrote it down. I thought, wow, I love that.
So we don't know where that one came from.
Well, I know which TV show, but I'm not going to promote.
Oh, okay. So can you say that one more time?
Motivational sayings, books, journaling. Early on, when I was first diagnosed, the nurses at the hospital encouraged me to start journaling.
Oh, journaling.
I think they recognized I wasn't good at talking about my problems. And when you start writing things down, even if it's just what you did that day, eventually something comes out that really resonates with you. Mm-hmm. Praying, I'm not super religious, but there is a higher power, I believe, watching over us somewhere, somehow. Those were really, really big. And talking to my social worker. When I finally got one, I just look forward to our monthly meetings so much. So yeah, those were the biggest things in helping me recover.
Is your social worker a counselor as well?
Oh, I haven't had a social worker for over 15 years. I just know her as a social worker. Like, yeah, she's a form of a counselor, but her designation is social worker.
I see. Very nice. So when did you kind of realize that you cracked the code per se and just proved everyone wrong that told you that you would never work again and all those things?
Okay, in 2011, that's when I got my second full-time job. And I was there for 5 years before I got downsized. So it was during that time, like I said, when you're hypomanic, you go on wild spending sprees. I was deeply in debt. When I started working full-time, every extra dollar I made went to paying off debt. And as soon as I became debt free, I started looking around to see if I could buy a house because I'd been renting for 12 years. And I don't know if I'm naturally lucky or what, but 10 years ago was one of the happiest days of my life when I opened the door to the home I'd purchased. And that's when I felt, okay, I've proven them wrong. I'm an independent woman. I have a home. I have a job. It was just, yeah, that's probably, I'm tearing up. That's probably when I could say definitely, I thought, okay, I lose my house. Nothing from nothing is nothing. Doesn't matter. If I don't lose my house, I'm getting equity and I'm still here. Now I've had to rent out a bedroom for a few years to help make ends meet, and that's okay. And then I had to make my own life as a virtual assistant doing administrative and bookkeeping tasks, and that's okay. I've proven I can support myself however I need to.
You have. That's amazing.
Wow, that is awesome, 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 awesome. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Hope I'm still doing this. I want to be speaking all over the world, telling people that you can believe the diagnosis, not the prognosis.
Yes, that's amazing. I love that.
That's what I want to be doing. That's the big thing. And I have a couple other books I'm working on. I don't work on them a lot, but they're in my head. I'm just not ready to write them yet. They're partly written from a few years ago. I would like to be able to support myself just by doing public speaking and writing books.
Yeah,
That's my
dream. Yeah, me and you both. Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. All right, so I have to ask, right? Do you ever drop the F-bomb?
Oh, when I'm alone all the time. I don't know what's happened to me in the last year. I'm not using it as much. But I discovered if you get that anger out right away, it just cuts it in half, or get that frustration out or stress out. I use the F word, and for some reason that word seems to, really help. And I have read in the last year or two that getting angry in the moment is a good thing. We need to let go of whatever is bothering us in the moment so it doesn't sit there and fester and bother us a day, a week, a month later.
No, you're absolutely right. Everything that I read and research says to let it out as well. It's just how you let it out is the issue.
Well, yeah, because I work from home, it's pretty easy.
Oh no, you're good. You can
want.
let loose over there by yourself. Let the bombs fly. You have been amazing. Thank you so much for your transparency and your willingness to share your journey with us. We really appreciate it.
It's been so much fun to talk to you today. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yes. Can you tell our listeners, our Corkies, where they can find your great books and where they can get in contact with you?
Okay, the F book, 7 F's to Creating Your Fantastic Future, is for sale on Amazon. And as I said earlier, my website and business name are myjourneybacktomyself.com or .ca. It doesn't matter. My journey back to myself. Because I believe we're all on a journey to be our most authentic and happiest self that we were created to be.
Yes, that's awesome. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Yes.
Uh,